Hi, today I want to reveal the most powerful, most innovative dialogue that a fundraiser can use in working one-to-one with a prospect. It's called the Life Values Dialogue. We're going to get a glimpse of this. It's part of training course number 4, which deals with psychological factors, power dialogues, of which this is one, and the hierarchy of commitment. But we're going to focus on this one particular dialogue. It employs strong psychological factors to drive the prospect from considering a gift to intent. And that's a significant step. Intent means a willingness to take action. It's used specifically for that purpose, but also I just find it a very powerful tool to use in almost all of my fundraising. So in this video, we get a glimpse of the power a fundraiser has in working one-to-one with a prospect. You'll notice in the video I reference fast thinking, slow thinking. That's the work of Dr. Daniel Kahneman, a Nobel Prize-winning economist, but a psychologist by profession. He wrote the seminal book, Thinking Fast and Slow. I use the theory of this book extensively in training course number 4, Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. We're going to hear an excerpt from the course. Please listen to the theory of this dialogue and then look at the practical application that's described. First, I'm Ken. This is the Empowerment Dialogue YouTube channel for fundraisers. It's dedicated to empowering you to empower others in living out their philanthropic lives. That's why we're here. It's a forum for everything to do with one-to-one fundraising. Please give me your comments and your suggestions. There's a subscribe button. Give me a thumbs up. All of that helps YouTube promote the channel to fundraisers. So now let's listen to this excerpt from training course number 4 on the Life Values Dialogue. The next dialogue is the Life Values Dialogue. It too is a power dialogue, and I might say, used correctly, a very powerful dialogue. I love this dialogue. I use it all the time when I'm soliciting gifts. This is a very different type of dialogue in many ways and represents the most sophisticated type of fundraising in the area of leadership, major, or planned gifts. Like visualization, this dialogue works with System 1 thinking. We turn to the work of Russell James III, and he has showed us in his research, utilizing functional MRI, that a unique part of the brain is excited by the fundraiser asking some key questions that invite the prospect to take a long-range view of their life. This part of the brain is the precentral gyrus, whose function is to create visualized autobiography of the individual. Stimulating this part of the brain brings forth intuitive feelings of life values and life meaning. The philanthropic question is then asked in the context of a broad lifetime perspective of the prospect. This dialogue is especially effective when the gift type is an estate gift, which in itself is life reflective. However, it can also be used with usually large current gifts. Look at the questions on screen and on the PDF. The goal is to get a clear statement of how the prospect would like to live out their life values in their philanthropic life. How to live out their life values in their philanthropy. The dialogue asks questions that elicit key life values of the prospect. There is then a key question which asks the prospect to apply those values to the possibility of making a gift. This dialogue triggers a deep consideration of life meaning for the prospect and creates a strong System 1 response that strengthens the resolve to increase the hierarchy of commitment. Again, this power dialogue should be used only after agreement for the gift has been implied by enthusiastic support for the mission and the case. There are 3 parts to this dialogue. Part 1, use open-ended why questions and active listening to have the prospect reveal important life values. Here's some examples. Why do you care so deeply? Why philanthropy? Why do you give to support causes you care about? Why are you so generous? Important. You are looking for personal values that the prospect has used to structure their lives. Listen to hear the whole story, and you will get stories when you ask these questions. Listen carefully, signaling active listening. Attentive, body posture, eye contact. Ask then the deepening question if you need to get a full story. If you're getting part of it, dig a little deeper. That's fascinating. Please tell me more. I'd love to hear more about that. Or simply, tell me more. Try to get a statement by the prospect of significant life values, such as loyalty, generosity, and a long-range perspective of life. Thank the prospect for sharing and feedback and what you have heard, if appropriate. Part 2 of the process. Introduce the key question. For a current gift, and they're different, current and deferred. When considering a gift, how do you want to live out these life values that are so important to you? How do you want to live them out right now in your life when considering a gift? That's the context. If the prospect needs clarification, say, or they're wondering about it, say, many people want their philanthropy to be reflective of what they hold dear, what they value in life. How do you feel about that? For the planned gift, different wording slightly. Considering a gift in your will, how do you want to live out these life values that you have mentioned to me in your estate plans or in your plans for the future? If need for clarification, say, again, use the social norm. Many people want their estate plans to be reflective of their lifetime values. How do you feel about that? By the way, I'm using estate plans here. I told you previously, don't use that word. But if you've already introduced, and you have in the gift type dialogue, you've already introduced the gift in a will, it's okay to now start calling it something a little different. That's fine. Very important. After asking the key question, establish decided silence. And this silence is the most silent you'll ever be. Have the prospect really consider this question deeply. It's a tough question. It requires a lot of introspection. If necessary, reassure the prospect by saying, please take as much time as you want. This is an important question. Get a response. Don't be surprised if you hear some very deep responses. Things like, I have never thought of this before. Or, I've had this one. I have to speak to my family about this. You've asked a very penetrating life meaning question. This question has engaged an important part of the brain dealing with life perspective and meaning. There's often a strong intuitive response or system 1 thinking that reframes any hesitancy on increasing commitment for the gift. If questioned, why are you asking this? Say, many people find this question helpful in guiding their philanthropic goals during their lifetimes or in their estate plans. How do you feel about this? Part 3, if you get a positive response, ask a deepening question like, having thought about this, how does that make you feel? Galvanize that feeling, that decision. This question deepens the process in System 1 thinking by the prospect, but that informs System 2 thinking. That's why you have them repeat it. You feed it back to them. This deepening response will galvanize the initial response in the prospect's mind. If this dialogue is used as part of solicitation after the mission and case dialogues, then gift closing to attempt to bring forth objections. If it is part of a longer-term migration strategy, then move to the appropriate dialogue. If you get no negative reaction, but only non-committal or a statement of irrelevance, simply move on. There will assuredly be long-term benefits in simply asking the question. Life values dialogue is exceptionally powerful for planned gift discussions, as you can imagine. In these cases, the prospect needs time to think all this over. Give them that time. Set up a time for a following meeting. In fact, this dialogue almost always requires the prospect to integrate the discussion over time. You've opened a big door here in this dialogue. Okay, there it is, the life values dialogue. I use this dialogue extensively, as I said, with unbelievable results. Whenever in some of my other videos I've quoted some of the results I get, I use this dialogue. I use it, keep in mind, always in context, only for prospective donors who have a lot of positive enthusiasm for the mission dialogue and case for support dialogue. In other words, they want to make the gift. And so this dialogue helps them put it into context and spurs them to take action. That's why we use it. And it works for good reason. If you combine Russell James III, wonderful research on using the functional MRI to see that area of the brain that is excited by this kind of a discussion. It's the area of the brain that looks at one's whole life, puts it in perspective. You combine that with the insights of Daniel Kahneman's decision-making theory, and this dialogue makes a lot of sense. I want to acknowledge something. This was taught to me by Dr. Paul Shervish of Boston College quite a few years ago. Paul was the founder of the Center for Wealth and Philanthropy. He termed it the moral biography. I've adjusted a little bit, and I call it the life values dialogue. It takes fundraising to a much higher level. It puts the fundraiser into a different arena. The training course, number 4, teaches precisely how to do that. It's a glimpse of what's possible. I hope this was helpful in empowering you to empower others in their philanthropy. Until the next video, thanks for watching, and as always, good fundraising.